Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mike here at Skill of Strength. I'm going to share with you my favorite prep for running. So I'm not naturally a gifted runner. I'm not one of those people that can just go out and, bomb a 5-mile run. I actually have to pay attention to my prep, pay attention to my tissue quality, and while I'm running, I actually have to pay attention to my mechanics. So as I started increasing my mileage and doing just a whole bunch of different types of running, whether it's on a track, whether it's trail running, etc., I noticed that I really had to start taking care of myself. So I kind of devised this little game plan where I could just hit the hot spots, and I'm going to share that with you today. So hopefully it'll help you guys out. Now, first thing we're going to do is just address soft tissue quick, and we're going to quickly go over the hot spots. I'm not going to do a whole foam rolling tutorial. I've actually done that before. But the areas that I want you to focus on are your calves. That's number 1. 2, glutes. 3, iliacus on the outside of the hip. And then lastly, the TFL. Now, can you hit quads, everything else? Absolutely. But I found that those 4 hot spots are the biggies. So like any type of foam rolling, you want to relax. If you find that you're holding your breath, it's not going to go so well. So what I like to do is just relax the foot, regulate pressure with the hands and with the feet. So you're just going to roll around, hit the hot spots in the calf. From there, we're going to go right up into the glute. And I like to do a little bit of external rotation at the same time. So right in this, the camera's reversed, but my right hip is down, so I'm going to bring my right hip into some external rotation so I can actually get that piriformis a little bit. So we're just going to roll the outside of the hip. Okay, we're going to just search around, change the angles, find the hot spots. So that's kind of working the glutes a little bit. From there, we're going to get the iliacus, which is the top of the hip. Now, this can be tough to get if you don't know what you're looking for. It's really on the outside of the hip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross over, and then I'm going to get at the very, very top of the hip. And once I'm there, I may have to roll slightly forward and roll slightly back just to find the sweet spot. And I'm just going to get in there and then find that hot spot, that iliacus, right at the top of the hip. Now, when you're addressing this with a foam roller or even a lacrosse ball, tennis ball, it's not a large range of motion. You don't have to actually roll the IT band down. So we're going to focus on the iliacus. You're just going to roll back and forth and find that sweet spot. Now, from the iliacus, we move into the TFL, which means we're just going to have to go face down a little bit and kind of hit the corner of your hip. And the TFL is one of those muscles. It's really hard to stretch. And what I found is that it responds pretty well to soft tissue work. So, easy way to find that TFL when you're working with your clients is, teach them how to find that ASIS. You're basically going to go an inch or 2 down and then an inch or 2 over. And that's basically where the TFL is, and that tends to be a pretty nasty hot spot. Once we hit your soft tissue work, we're going to hit the biggies from a mobility standpoint. First one we're going to talk about is ankle mobility. So we're going to be focusing on hopefully improving just some basic mobility in the front part of the ankle and the joint. But if we neglect the calf, we're going to be missing a big part of it. Now, when you're doing ankle mobility work, guys, let me just grab a dowel quick. Where did I put my dowel? Hold on, I can get my dowel. All right, sorry about that, guys. So, ankle mobility. The biggie is when you're doing your ankle mobility, here, let me get the camera down a little bit, is positioning. Biggest mistake I see when people are trying to improve ankle dorsiflexion is they just bring their knee forward. Well, if you're trying to mob your ankle and increase dorsiflexion and you're doing it over the big toe, most likely you're actually pronating at the foot. So if we put you on an unstable foot position, it's really not going to help. So one of the things we want to do when we're improving our ankle dorsiflexion is just to line it over the 4th toe. Okay, now when we do that, we want to go as far as we can while maintaining the heel down position. Now there's a bazillion different ways that you can do this, but the biggie is we maintain a nice stable foot. So let me give you the side view here. Heel down. Again, position it over the 4th toe, and then your goal is to go as far as you can over the 4th toe while keeping the heel down. Now, it's very important that we don't start with this hip way too far back, because if we start to mob the ankle here, we could be running into our hip before we start to improve ankle dorsiflexion. So you're gonna want to close this position down a little bit. And again, you're just gonna glide and you're gonna kind of bump up against that restriction, and then you're gonna go back and forth. And I'll do this 15, 20 times. Now, my favorite way to work on the calf, posterior chain, and everything that we really address on the backside is with this next drill. So this is a calf stretch with a posterior weight shift. Now, I will tell you this, it's a pretty intense stretch, so you gotta take it slow. So we're gonna start in the push-up position, okay? We're gonna find a scenario where we can keep one heel down. The opposing leg is gonna stack on front. We're gonna feel a stretch right away. We're gonna go tippy-toe, nice and high. Once we get that heel down, we weight shift back. So we're gonna go tiptoe, heel down, and then butt back. Now, it's gonna be a big stretch in the calf and the hamstring. You can't be super aggressive with this because it will light you up. So again, I usually do 10 to 12 per side. Try to get into a position where you can get your heels down and then go from there. So again, we're hitting the front part of the ankle first, and then second, we're hitting the calf. I'll show you another one of my favorite progressions. I'm gonna tilt this camera back up just a bit. Awesome. Now the next one we're gonna do is a little combination. So we're gonna do a stretch for just kind of getting a little bit of length in the hamstring. We're going to work on some ankle mobility, and we're gonna work on a little bit of leg lowering to work on stability in the pelvis and the lumbar spine. So from here, when we set up, the down leg is just as important. So I've got one leg with the strap, but the down leg is just as important. So I'm bringing my head up so I can talk to the camera, but we want to make sure that we just stay down. So we're going to come up, we're going to be in a nice big stretch, and the down leg stays neutral and basically locks down in that position, okay? We're going to do 10 of these. Each time trying to get a little bit more range of motion. Once we get to 10, we're just going to perform some basic plantar flexion and dorsiflexion with the ankle, okay? Now once we're here, guys, this is where we're going to work on a little bit of stability in the pelvis. Keeping the lower back nice and squished flat, we're going to bring this leg up, okay? Now, the right leg stays, the left leg is going to come all the way down. Now, when we perform this leg lower, this can't change, this can't change. So it's very important that this comes down, this comes up, and we maintain the positioning of our lumbar spine and pelvis. 10 to 12 on each side and go from there. Very, very simple stuff, but make sure that you lock it down. And make sure, for this drill specifically, that you don't have any flexion in the knee. Okay, so that's a biggie. Now, one of my favorite stretches, this is a little bit more of an advanced hip flexor stretch, but it is one of my favorites. I'll show you it 2 ways. So it is a front foot elevated hip flexor stretch with a little bit of rotation. I like to put a pad down on the, just for the knee, just because it's more comfortable. We're going to elevate the front foot. Now, when we get set up in this position, we want to stay nice and tall. Make sure you're not hyperextending your spine. The beauty of elevating this front foot is it allows us to lock down that lumbar spine a little bit. So from here, I like to take the dowel, place it right over, okay? I'm going to do a slight posterior tilt with the down leg, okay? Once I do that posterior tilt, I'm just going to lean slightly forward and lock in that position. Once I feel a light stretch, I'm going to perform a torso rotation with the dowel. And I'm just going to get a nice stretch in my hip flexion and my quad. Hang out there and go from there. Just make sure that when you're rotating, you're not getting any rotation in the lumbar spine. Let me give you the front view, guys. Once we're set, boom. We come forward and go from here. It's elevated, slight posterior tilt, boom, lean into it. Now when we do that rotation, make sure that that knee doesn't go with it, okay? We want to just stay settled, stay put, lock it down, and then come back, okay? If you need a little bit more, you can always prop this up a little bit or just lean a little bit more forward just to make sure you're not arching your back for the duration of the drill. And then lastly, guys, we're going to put it all together. And this is, instead of doing just some clams or some mini band walks, this is a little progression to get a lot of things activated all at once. This is a crossbody cone touch. Now we're going to start with one leg in, obviously in a single leg stance. The opposing leg is going to be in hip flexion. Now once we're here, guys, I'm going to give you the front view, but here's the side view. Posture's tall, the knee is up as high as it can go without any tilting in the pelvis, okay? So we're going to go single leg, hip flexion, 1 second hold into a crossbody cone touch for a 1 second hold. 1 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi. I like to do 20 Mississippi total, so we've got 10 seconds, essentially 10 seconds in the single leg stance with hip flexion, and then 10 seconds at the bottom, but you're just alternating. So you're reaching across and going from there. So guys, the key here is to just address the soft tissue right away. Calves, everything around the hips. Attack the ankles, attack the calves. You know, work on that active straight leg raise progression, because quality gait is when we can get quality hip extension and quality hip flexion with a stable lumbar spine and pelvis. So that's a huge part of the active straight leg raise progression. From there, we're gonna attack the anterior hip, so we're gonna work on hip flexor and quad, and then we're gonna do some basic activation work with a cross-body reach to kind of get the glutes firing, work on single leg stance, etc. So guys, pretty simple stuff today, but oftentimes just a quality prep and the right prep is fantastic for improving your run. So guys, give it a try, let me know what you think. We'll see you soon.